The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors have been proudly serving the people of this community since 1918. Service is our motto. The poor, the rich, the middle class and all are given the best of care and attention at all times. You have the privilege to select what you want. In your time of need, contact the capable, the competent, and the dependable staff of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home who is genuinely concerned with your care. At J.W. Williams Funeral Home, you are aptly served by the proprietor president, Deacon Arthur L. Parker, who continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcers for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Ms. Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr.
Thank you and good morning, friends. We come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of Mr. Charles Johnson, Jr. of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Miss Lucille Hillman of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Mr. Roy Lee Dawson of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Ella Mae Jackson Harvey of Americus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr. of Byronville, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Mr. Charles Johnson, Jr., age 73, of 5150 U.S. Highway 41 North, Ashburn, Georgia, died Monday, November 20th, at the Tift General Hospital in Tifton, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Charles Johnson, Jr., age 73, was held Thursday, November 30th, in the sanctuary of the Madison Avenue Church of God by Faith in Ashburn, Georgia. The pastor, Dr. Larry W. Coffey, officiated. The burial followed at the Westview Memorial Garden in Ashburn, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife, Mrs. Vicki Shine Johnson of Ashburn, Georgia, his loving and caring children, Mr. Charles Johnson III of Dublin, Georgia, Mr. Terry Grant of California, Ms. Jessica Morgan of Tifton, Georgia, Ms. Angelique Douglas and Mr. James Johnson, both of Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Kenneth Johnson of Ashburn, Georgia, 14 beloved grandchildren, his loving and devoted sisters, Mrs. Virginia Smith, Mrs. Jessie Leggett, and Miss Tara S. Brown, all of Ashburn, Georgia, Miss Yvonne Sims of Detroit, Michigan, and Miss Shirley Tubbs of South Carolina, his beloved brothers, Mr. Dale Griffin of South Carolina, Mr. Johnny Leggett Jr. of Texas, Mr. Richard Leggett of Las Vegas, his beloved sisters-in-law, Mrs. Joanne Leggett and Mrs. Betty Leggett, both of Ashburn, Georgia, Mrs. Helen Shine of Tifton, Georgia, a host of beloved nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survived. Mr. Charles Johnson Jr., age 73, of 5150 U.S. Highway 41 North, Ashburn, Georgia. Miss Lucille Hillman, affectionately known as Marcille, age 83, of 715 Story Street, Ashburn, Georgia, died Tuesday, November 21st, at the Emory St. Joseph Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Lucille Hillman, age 83, was held Thursday, November 30th, in the sanctuary of the Greater St. Luke Baptist Church in Ashburn, Georgia. The Reverend Samuel Gaines, pastor. Her pastor, the Reverend Carl Mons Jr., pastor of the New Hope Baptist Church of Sibley, Georgia, officiated. The burial followed at the Westview Memorial Garden in Ashburn, Georgia. Survivors include 11 and devoted children, Mr. Rodney Hillman and his wife, Mrs. Doreen Hillman, and Miss Rachel Whitsett, all of Ashburn, Georgia. 6 beloved grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren, a beloved brother, Mr. Larry Hillman of Atlanta, Georgia. 2 beloved sisters-in-law, Miss Mabel Hillman and Miss Inez Hillman, both of Ashburn, Georgia. 2 godchildren, Mr. DeMarcus Simmons and Mr. Rico Laster. 2 bonus grandchildren, a host of nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survived. Miss Lucille Hillman, age 83, of 715 Story Street, Ashburn, Georgia. Mr. Roy Lee Dawson, age 61, of 309 West 28th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Monday, November 20th, at the Cordele Health and Rehabilitation Center in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Roy Lee Dawson, age 61, was held Saturday, December 2nd, in the chapel of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend James E. McBurrows, pastor of the Agape Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Vienna City Cemetery in Vienna, Georgia. Survivors include his beloved children, Ms. Jasmine Dawson, Mr. Travis Dawson and his wife, Ms. Nidra Dawson, Mr. Tyreek Dawson, all of Vienna, Georgia, Mr. Taiwan Dawson and his wife, Mrs. Vicky Dawson, and Ms. Armani Rashid, all of Jacksonville, Florida. 9 beloved grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, his beloved and devoted sisters, Ms. Norma Jean Hicks of Cordele, Georgia, Mrs. Annie Lee Thomas of Hackensack, New Jersey, and Ms. Jenny Lee Hampton of Corrington, Georgia. His beloved brother, Mr. Ricky Dawson Sr., Mr. Joe Dennis Dawson, and Mr. David Hutchinson, all of Vienna, Georgia. A host of beloved nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends, to include Mrs. Barbara Freeman, Mrs. Rosalind Porter, Mr. Joseph Maynard, all survived. Mr. Roy Lee Dawson, age 61, of 309 West 28th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Ella Mae Jackson Harvey, age 83, of 907 Davenport Street, Americus, Georgia, died Friday, November 24th at Magnolia Manor in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Ella Mae Jackson Harvey, age 83, was held Saturday, December 2nd, in the sanctuary of the Greater New Lebanon Baptist Church in Plains, Georgia. The pastor, Reverend Glenn Bryant Sr., officiated. The burial followed at the New Lebanon Cemetery in Plains, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mrs. Diane Willis and her husband, Mr. Johnny Willis of Albany, Georgia, Mr. Joe Jackson and Miss Sharon Johnson, Miss Tracy Manning and Mr. Dennis Best, Mr. Calvin Harvey and Miss Gloria Postel, all of Americus, Georgia. 22 beloved grandchildren, a number of great-grandchildren, her beloved sister, Mrs. Josephine Smith of Americus, Georgia, her beloved and devoted brothers, Deacon Walter Jackson Sr. and Miss Letha McCoy, Mr. Robert Jackson and his wife, Mrs. Ovita Jackson, Mr. Andrew Jackson and his wife, Mrs. Gussie Jackson, all of Americus, Georgia. A host of beloved nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mrs. Ella Mae Jackson Harvey, age 83, of 907 Davenport Street, Americus, Georgia. Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr., age 89, of 4935 West Road, Byronville, Georgia, died Friday, November 24th at the Cordial Health and Rehabilitation Center in Cordial, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr., age 89, was held Saturday, December 2nd, in the chapel of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home in Cordial, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church Cemetery in Byronville, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Mr. Andrew Felton and his wife, Mrs. Bernice Felton of Byronville, Georgia, Mr. Crandall Postel and Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Stephanie Johnson, all of Cordial, Georgia. A beloved stepdaughter, Miss Janice Gail Kelly of Cordial, Georgia. 14 beloved grandchildren, 14 great-grandchildren, a beloved and devoted sister, Mrs. Carlton Johnson Wallace of Vienna, Georgia, his beloved and devoted brother, Mr. Jimmy Lee Johnson, and his wife, Evangelist Eva Johnson of Albany, Georgia, a host of beloved nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr., age 89, of 4935 West Road, Byronville, Georgia. Again, the family of Mr. Charles Johnson Jr. of Ashburn, Georgia, The family of Miss Lucille Hillman of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Mr. Roy Lee Dawson of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Ella Mae Jackson Harvey of Americus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr. of Byronville, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you is their prayer. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley, age 20, of 1366 Dayspring Trace, Lawrenceville, Georgia, died Saturday, November 11th, at Wellstar North Fulton Hospital in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted mother, Mrs. DeWanda Williams Cleckley of Lawrenceville, Georgia, his loving and caring father, Mr. Damian Cleckley of West Henrietta, New York, his loving sisters, Mrs. Denia T. Cleckley of Lawrenceville, Georgia, Ms. Donna L. Cleckley of West Henrietta, New York, and Ms. Deoria T. Winslow of Goldsboro, North Carolina. His beloved brother, Mr. DeTravius Cleckley, his loving and devoted grandparents, Mrs. Annette Watts Williams of Leslie, Georgia, and Mr. O.C. Williams of DeSoto, Georgia, Miss Sherry Sapp Cleckley of Camilla, Georgia, and Mr. Maurice R. Cleckley of Americus, Georgia. His beloved uncles, Mr. Oscar Williams III of DeSoto, Georgia, and Mr. Derinsky T. Cleckley of Atlanta, Georgia. A host of beloved cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley, age 20, of 1366 Dayspring Trace, Lawrenceville, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley will be announced pending the recovery of his beloved mother. United States Army veteran, Mr. Sammy John Balaam Sr., age 80, age 98, of 130 Wolfview Court, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, died Saturday, December 2nd, at Autumn Breeze Health and Rehabilitation Center in Marietta, Georgia, formerly of Rochelle, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Mrs. Gloria Jean Balaam Reed of Delray Beach, Florida, Mrs. Elvesta Balaam Sewell of Lithium Springs, Georgia, Mr. Sammy John Balaam Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Linda Balaam of Atlanta, Georgia, and the Reverend Albert W. Holmes and his wife, Mrs. Earlene Holmes of Stone Mountain, Georgia. 7 beloved grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren, a beloved sister-in-law, Mrs. Patricia Balaam of Lakeland, Florida, a host of beloved nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. United States Army veteran, Mr. Sammy John Balaam, Sr., age 98, of 130 Wolfview Court, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, formerly of Rochelle, Georgia. The funeral service for United States Army veteran Mr. Sammy John Balaam, Sr., age 98, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving Cordele and Vienna, are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Notices for this morning, and as always, we do remind each of you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay, a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your pre-funeral arrangements needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And also whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And now for announcements. The Friendship Baptist Church of Findlay, Georgia, will observe their annual Christmas program Wednesday, December 6th at 7 p.m. Dr. Beverly Bolden, pastor of the Pleasant Valley Baptist Church of Pinehurst, Georgia, will be the guest minister. Everyone is invited. Sister Inez Johnson, secretary, the Reverend Joseph Atkins, pastor. The Friendship Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia, Highway 195 North, DeSoto, Leslie, Georgia. Annual Senior Citizens Appreciation Day will be Sunday, December 10th at 11 a.m. Dinner will be served. Everyone is invited to attend. Sister Rosemary Sims, Program Director, Deacon Oscar Cooks, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend James Thomas, Pastor. Freedom Harvest Worship Center, 189 Holly Street, Leslie, Georgia, will celebrate the 13th anniversary of their pastor Sunday, Sunday, December 3rd at 2:30 p.m. The McAfee Grove Baptist Church and Pastor Dr. Robert Morgan will be in charge of the anniversary service. Everyone is invited. Dr. Georgia Dariso, pastor. The McAfee Grove Baptist Church, Highway 19 North, Leesburg, Georgia, invites everyone to worship with them. Family nights, Tuesday at 7 p.m., small class study, Thursday at 7 p.m., morning worship at 9 a.m. The user code is 425-436-6341. User code 425, the number 425-436-6341, and the code is 708058. 425-436-6341, and code is 708058. Minister Tawanda Daniels, Secretary, Dr. Robert Morgan, Senior, Pastor, McAfee Grove Baptist Church, Highway 19 North, Leesburg, Georgia. The New Corinth Baptist Church, Hooks Mill Road, Leslie, Georgia, invites everyone to worship with them each third Sunday at 10 a.m. Deacon Johnny Griffin, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Carl Smith, Pastor. The Davis Chapel CME Church of Arabi, Georgia, annual guest day will be Sunday, December 10th at 10 a.m. The Reverend John Griggs will be the guest minister. Everyone is invited and dinner will be served. Steward Ruby Barrett, Chairman of Stewards, and the Reverend A. Welburn, Pastor. The public is invited to the lunch celebration of the new television program, Our Global Family, Sunday, December 10th, 2023 at 3 p.m. in the Clara Scott Community Clubhouse. The TV show will premiere later the same day on Zondra TV Network, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. This TV show is part of a broader movement to reunite families and restore family values, sponsored and directed by ML Bill Consulting LLC, CEO Mary L. Bill, in collaboration with Connecting Souls to South, CEO Millie McDade Woods. Please join the program and get a backstage viewing of Our Global Family TV show will debut Director Mary Beal with executive producer Zondra Evans, founder and CEO of Zondra TV Network. For more information, please contact Mrs. Mary L. Beal of Cordele, Georgia. The Gospel Travelers of Oakville, Georgia, 59th anniversary will be Sunday, December 17th at the Warwick Community Center, 111 Dogwood Street, Warwick, Georgia. On program will be the Georgia Boys of Meigs, Georgia, Precision and Brothers in Christ of Albany, Georgia, Truly Blessed of Albany, Georgia, the Gospel Stars of Lilly, Georgia, the Gospel Kings of Warner Robins, Georgia, Chosen Voices of Ideal, Georgia. The door open at 4 p.m. The program starts at 5 p.m. Admission is free. The Gospel Travelers of Oakville, Georgia, 59th anniversary will be Sunday, December 17th at the Warwick Community Center, 111 Dogwood Street, Warwick, Georgia. On program, the Georgia Boys of Meigs, Georgia, Precision and Brothers in Christ of Albany, Georgia, Truly Blessed of Albany, Georgia, the Gospel Stars of Lilly, Georgia, the Gospel Kings of Warner Robins, Georgia, Chosen Voices of Idea, Georgia. The doors open at 4 p.m. The program starts at 5 p.m. Admission is free. The annual Emancipation Proclamation Service for Chris County will be observed Monday, January 1st, 2024 at 11 a.m. at the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church. Dr. T.C. Boone, pastor of Faith Perfection Life Center, Warner Robins, Georgia, will deliver the emancipation message. The Cordele Chris County branch of the NAACP annual Freedom Fund Banquet will be Saturday, January 13th, 2024 at Blackshear Place Event Center. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, please contact Ms. Dorothy Bryant or any member of the local branch. The Cordell Crisp County branch of the NAACP annual Freedom Fund Banquet will be Saturday, January 13, 2024 at the Blackshill Place Event Center. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, please contact Ms. Dorothy Bryant or any member of the local branch. Ms. Kathy McGill, branch secretary, the Reverend Isaac Owens, branch president. The annual Camp Creek Baptist Church Senior Choir Anniversary will be held Sunday, December 10th at 2 p.m. Everyone is invited. Deacon Lucius Hamilton, Chairman of Deacons. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church conference call schedule Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Prayer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon. Bible study each Wednesday at 5 p.m. The call-in number is 339-209-6419. The call-in number for the Mount Zion First African Baptist Church is 339-209-6419. Deacon Joe Wedges, Chairman of Deacons, Dr. Dan James III, Pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Mother Mary Butler, Church Mother, Deacon Johnny Wilson, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Cecil Straughter, Pastor. The New Oak Grove Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each Sunday. Sunday school at 9:15 a.m., worship service at 10 a.m. Face covering is required. Sister Letha Askew, church clerk and trustee, Deacon Alonzo Jones, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend W. Wilson, Pastor. The Beautiful Zion Baptist Church annual Men and Women's Day will be Sunday. Beautiful Zion Baptist Church, contact members there if the Men and Women's Day program is still to come up. This has a far-out date here for me. You're invited to worship with the Beautiful Zion Baptist Church each Sunday at 11 a.m. The Beautiful Zion Baptist Church, you're invited to worship with them each Sunday at 11 a.m. Mother Brace Patrick, Church Mother, and the Reverend Lorinda Ray is the pastor. The Greater Gum Creek Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Mother Norma Solomon, Church Mother, Deacon Lonnie Hoggerbrook, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Joseph Hoggerbrook is the pastor. You're invited to worship with the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church today with Sunday school at 9 a.m. with the superintendent, Deacon John Stubbs, and Deacon Donald Talbert in charge. Morning worship at 9:30 a.m. Mother Mary Henderson, Church Mother, Deacon Tommy Ford Jr., Chairman of Deacons, Dr. K.M. Williams is the pastor. Friends, that conclude our announcements for this morning, and we do pray that you would govern yourselves accordingly. And now for dedication. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: in loving memory of Deacon Otis Glenn, who departed this life November 27, 2007. Dedication requested by his beloved children, Latoya, Nick, and Tina, his grandchildren, his beloved sibling, Joanne, Deacon Charles Glenn, and the Reverend Calvin Glenn, and the entire family gone Gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Deacon Bonnie Williams, who would have celebrated his birthday December 1st, dedication requested by the Williams family. Gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. Mumford Roberson, who would have celebrated his birthday December 1st, dedication requested by his beloved wife, Mrs. Betty Roberson, his children and grandchildren. Gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Justine Ford Vance, who would have celebrated her birthday December 1st, dedication requested by the Ford and Vance family. Gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Shante Dean, who departed this life December 2nd, 2014, and would have celebrated her birthday December 15, dedication requested by her beloved mother, Miss Barbara Smith, her beloved grandmother, Mother Leela Mae Smith, her beloved sisters, brother, the Dean Smith and Bryant family. Precious memory lingers still. In loving memory of Mrs. Mary Fagan Thomas, who departed this life December, dedication requested by her beloved children, grandchildren, and the entire family. Gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. Earl Davis, who departed this life December 4th, 1974, dedication requested by Mrs. Mary Frances Davis. In loving memory of Mrs. Maddie Thomas, precious memory lingers still. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following. Happy 22nd anniversary to Mr. Johnny and Mrs. Barbara Dennis, who celebrated their anniversary Thursday, November 30th. Dedication requested by their beloved daughters, grandchildren, the Dennis and McGill family. Happy 22nd anniversary to Mr. Johnny and Mrs. Barbara Dennis. God continue to bless your union and keep it strong. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following. Happy birthday to Mrs. Tiffany Odom Johnson, who celebrated her birthday Monday, November 27th. Dedication requested by her husband, Mr. McKee Johnson, her children, her beloved mother, Mrs. Loretta Coley, and the entire family. Happy birthday to Mr. Dravian McGill, chairman of the Chris County Board of Assessors, who celebrated his birthday Monday, November 27th. Dedication requested by his beloved wife, his children, his beloved mother, the entire McGill and Royal family. Happy birthday to Mr. Dravian McGill, chairman of the Chris County Board of Assessors. Happy birthday to Ms. Ricky McGill, who celebrated her birthday Tuesday, November 28th. Dedication requested by her beloved parents, her sister, and the McGill family. Happy birthday to Mr. Edward Earl McGill, who celebrated his birthday Wednesday, November 29th. Dedication requested by his daughter, his grandson, his beloved mother, and the entire McGill family. Special birthday wishes goes out, 102nd birthday to Mother Annie Wallace of Dooley County, who celebrated her birthday Saturday, November 30th. Dedication requested by her beloved family and friends. 102 years old, Mrs. Annie Wallace of Dooley County. God continue to bless you and many, many more. Happy birthday to Miss Della Westbrook, who celebrated her birthday Thursday, November 30th. Dedication requested by her beloved children, grandchildren, and the entire Westbrook family. Happy birthday to Mr. Carjon Jones, also known as CJ, who will celebrate his birthday Wednesday, December 6th. Dedication requested by the entire Paul Jones and Ruff family. Happy birthday to twins Angelica and Angelo Jones, who will celebrate their birthday Friday, December 8th. Dedication requested by the Jones Smith Levant families. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: Deacon James Smith and family, Deacon Henry King of the Gethsemane Baptist Church, and church mother, Mother Mary Butler, Mother Grace Patrick and family, Deacon Lawrence and Sister Gwen Williams and family, and Mother Janie Billingsley and family, Mr. A.J. and Miss Vera Rivers and family, Mother Mamie Robinson and family, retired educator Mrs. Elizabeth Waters and family, Deacon George Jordan and family, Vienna, Georgia, Deacon Jerome Jordan and family, Deacon Joed Clark and family, Deacon Oscar Cook, chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Friendship Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia, the Mercer family, the Fuller family, the Clark family, the Mitchell family, Deacon William Durham and Sister Robbie Durham of Albany and Cordele, Georgia, Mr. Jeannie and Sister Doretha Didale and family, Miss Willie Mae Crapp and family, Deaconess Martha A. Cross and family, to my neighbor, Mrs. Theron Jones and family, and the entire Jones and Tarbert family, Deacon and Mrs. John Stubbs and family, Deacon and Mrs. Donald Tarbert and family, and Mrs. Juanita Mathis Tarbert and family, Mother Willie Mae Leary and family of Hatley, Georgia, Mrs. Earlene Lango and family, Miss Pauline Jones and family, Miss Marion Golphin and family, Mrs. Annie Griffin and family, Miss Kiana Young and family, Mother Melan Hawkins and family, Deacon Johnny Hawkins and family, Deacon William Hawkins and family, Brother Herman Williams and family, Mr. Jeffrey Walker and family, Mr. Roderick and Miss Leanne Simmons and family, Mr. Andrew Green and family, Deacon Charlie and Mrs. Mary Jane Atkins and family, Miss Jeanette Lewis Johnson and family, Mr. Roosevelt Smith and family, Brother James Leon Hughes and the members of the Church of Christ at Hilltop, Mrs. Bernice Heskell and family, Miss Clara Collier and family, Overseer Annie and Minister Leroy Reynolds and family of Vienna, Georgia, Deacon Johnny and Mother Vera Perry and family, Vienna, Georgia, Mother Mary Benjamin and family, Mr. Jeffrey Harmon and family, Miss Monica Westbrook and family, Deacon Leroy and Miss Diane Thomas and family, Mrs. Shirley J. Taylor and family, Mr. Sammy Taylor and family, Mrs. Johnny Lawson and family, Mr. Joe and Miss Rosemary Brown and family, Miss Shanika Miller Coley and family, Mrs. Donna Monroe and family, Miss Gladys Grace and family, Mr. Willie Frank Miller and family, Mr. Warren and Miss Gladys Adderley and family, Miss Annette Stembridge and family, Mrs. Geraldine Harvey and family, Mrs. Sidney Ruff and family, Mrs. Dorothy Williams and family, Mrs. Florine Manning and family, Miss Janice Mumphrey and family, Mother Mary Henderson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Norman Fields and family, Mr. A.B., Miss Valerie Levant and family, Mrs. Dorothy Rose Jones and family, Judge and Mrs. W.E. Lockett and family, the Reverend Dion and Mrs. Cynthia Jones and family, Miss Nancy Butler and family, Mrs. Aletha Askew, church clerk and trustee of the New Oak Grove Baptist Church, Mrs. Juanita Montford and family, Mrs. Annie Smith and family, Deacon and Sister Perry Jones and family, Mrs. Martha Ruth Westbrook and family of Araby, Georgia, Mrs. Kay Brown and family, and the entire Brown family of Araby, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Moore Sr. and family, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Frank Miller Jr. and family, Mother Adeline Lofton, church mother of the Little Rock Baptist Church of Araby, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. Jack Miller and family, Mr. and Mrs. Darius Miller and family, Mrs. Barbara Benjamin and family, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Holmes and family, Mrs. Queenie Mae Ferguson and family, Mrs. Friendly Miller and family, Mrs. Gloria Hunt and family, Miss Regina Lawson and family, Mrs. Bertha McDew and family, Mrs. Dorothy Emery and family. Deacon John David Law, Chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Evergreen Baptist Church of Pinehurst, Georgia. Mrs. Annie Griffin and family, Mrs. Frankie Cross and family, Mr. and Mrs. Solomon Hope and family, Mr. and Mrs. Deacon and Mrs. Robert Hawkins and family, Deacon and Mrs. William Hawkins and family. Our first selection this morning goes out to our dear friend, Mrs. Cheryl Cobb Henry and family of Americus, Georgia. Our first selection for this first Sunday in December 2023.
Many wonderful things. Now, you may not be able to do that fast kind of church, but can we do that little slow kind of church rock? Rock right here like this. Y'all don't know how to do the two-step. Come on. Some of y'all ain't moving yet. Come on. Clap your hands with us. Come on. Come on, put those hands together. Y'all ready to have church tonight? There's so many wonderful things about Jesus. I just can't tell them all. There are so many wonderful things about Jesus. Come on, y'all, let's have church tonight. There are so many wonderful things about Him. Come on, quiet. There are so many wonderful things about Jesus. So many wonderful things.
It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley, age 20, of 1366 Dayspring Trace, Lawrenceville, Georgia, died Saturday, November 11th at Wells Star North Fulton Hospital in Lawrenceville, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley, age 20, will be announced at a later date, pending the recovery of his beloved mother. United States Army veteran, Mr. Sammy John Balaam Sr., age 98, of 130 Wolf View Court, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, died Saturday, December 2nd, at Autumn Breeze Health and Rehabilitation Center in Marietta, Georgia, formerly of Rochelle, Georgia. The funeral service for United States Army veteran Mr. Sammy John Balaam Sr., age 98, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving Cordele and Diana, are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection for this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones were laid to rest during the past week. The family of Mr. Charles Johnson Jr. of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Miss Lucille Hillman of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Mr. Roy Lee Dawson of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson Sr. of Byronville, Georgia. This election is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Mr. DeQuavius Tremaine Cleckley of Lawrenceville, Georgia. The family of United States Army veteran Mr. Sammy John Balaam Sr. of Atlanta, Georgia, formerly of Rochelle, Georgia. This election is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in, to all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker. This election goes out to my mother-in-law, Mrs. Billy Ann Hall and family, to my brother, retired Chief Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, and his wife, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, and our grandson, Noble. And sorry about that, Noble, that outcome, Noble, yesterday. God bless you. This election goes out to my sister, Mrs. Patsy Jackson, and her husband, Mr. Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. This election goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, program chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church. Goes out to our pastor, Dr. Ken Williams, and his wife, Sister Kathy Williams. Again, invite you to worship this morning, 9 o'clock Sunday school with Superintendent Deacon John Stubb, Deacon Donald Talbot in charge, followed by morning worship at 9 a.m. in observance of Holy Communion. Our program this morning goes out to Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, and assisted us on yesterday in the homegoing services, Mr. Mandel Lee Johnson. I'd say thank you to Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, the oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home and steward of the Bethel CME Church here in the city of Cordele, Georgia. This selection goes out to the entire Lemons family. This election goes out to our beloved Miss Easter May Sanders and family. Goes out to my niece, Mrs. Vera Mathis, and Mrs. Florine Mumphrey Manning, and the entire Manning and Mumphrey family. This election goes out to our friend and brother long standing, the Reverend Johnny Dean, pastor of the Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia. Goes out to our brother Deacon Jimmy Charles Mumphrey and the entire Mumphrey family. Deacon Sammy Mumphrey and family. Goes out to Deacon Jimmy Fagan and the entire Fagan family. Mrs. Lucy Baker and family. Mrs. Gail Fagan and family. And goes out in to our brother Kelvin Pless. I'd like to thank him for providing our music on this first Sunday in December. Brother Kelvin Pless of Americus, Georgia. Again, to our dear cousin, Deacon Emery Wright, and the entire Wright family of Albany and Lee County, and the members of the St. Matthew's Baptist Church of Lee County, Georgia. This selection goes out to Deacon, my cousin Deacon Frank Mays and Sister Gloria Mays, and the members of the Mount Abel Baptist Church of Lee County, Georgia. And again, to each of you who listens to our program on each Sunday morning, God bless you this first Sunday in December. Our final selection for this morning goes out to Mother Willie McGill and family. Our final selection for this morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. In your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.